Thank goodness that Victor Naraki is the sponsor of the Solo Show. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to afford enough snacks for all the guest hosts on this week's Solo Show. Coming up on the Solo Show.
I am at a complete loss as to why this is on there.
I have no idea. I have never, ever seen anything about that show.
Wow, I didn't know that the Solo Studios could hold 3 guest host chairs. Join us as Stan welcomes Kris, Francine, and Patrick to discuss the top 75 most impactful TV moments from the Emmys. At least the first 25, anyway. Coming up right now on The Solo Show.
I'm Realtor Victor Naraki, and I specialize in living near Disney World. I work directly with you. I'm not a referral agent. A referral agent takes your name, takes your number, and then sells you to a random agent for a stake in that commission. When you call me, you get me, and I am there for you from the initial consultation through to closing and all the steps in between. You get me. Now, if you want to reach me, visit disneyatyourdoorstep.com for all my links, and you will get me.
And when you do get Victor, tell him the Solo Show sent you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the host of the Solo Show and the star of the new Ghostbusters movie where he plays Cavi number 3. Here's Stan Solo.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Solo Show. I am Stan Solo as always, and this week we got multi-episodes. It's going to go at least 4, maybe 5, 6. We'll see how time goes. We're going to try to race through these as quickly as we can. We're all sitting here before the chat. I don't know how we can get through all these in just a couple episodes, but we'll see how it goes. I got a roundtable discussion. We're talking the 75 greatest moments in the past 75 years of television. I don't know if these are the 75 greatest moments, but according to the Emmys, they are. We all went through the list, and I think we all agree that this isn't the 75 greatest moments. I could think of some that are greater than these, but we'll see. We'll save that one for the final episode. This is part 1 of a 3 or 4 or 5-parter. We'll see how it goes. Joining me today from the Grand Circle Tour podcast, Food Fairy Kris. How are you today?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here doing this. This is going to be fun.
All righty. Also, Francine Cochrane, is that correct, from the Pixie Dust Fan Podcast?
Yes, and thank you for inviting me on the show, Stan. I'm excited to be here.
It's always a pleasure to have you on. And then, Patrick, you're going to have to help me with your last name.
Radecker,
thank you. You know me, main names.
Yeah, no
welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you.
All righty. So I was watching the Primetime Emmys, and they put out this quick clip of the top 75 moments in television history in the past 75 years. I guess that's how long, because it's the 75th anniversary of the Emmys, so that's why they did 75 years. And I thought, this is really interesting. I want to know what these moments are. They have the list available online. You can go to the Emmys website and find it. And I kind of was looking through it, and I go, these are really cool. This is neat. I want to talk about this. And I started kind of looking at the list. I'm thinking, well, this is missing. This is missing. Why isn't that there? Why is this here? And I said, I'm going to get some friends on. We're going to talk about it. So we're starting off 75. We're going to try to get to number 50 today. We'll see how it goes. So we're going to start off number 75 is the final episode of Johnny Carson with Bette Midler.
Here's Bette Midler.
Well, you know, when they asked me to come on, and I can't believe it. The last guest, the last fool, Mr. Carson, will have to suffer gladly. You are the wind beneath my wings. Oh, well, he is. 2:45. There's no one in the place except you and me. So set 'em up, Joe. Got a little story I think you should know.
Alrighty. I saw this clip. I watched the whole video, and I thought to myself, Johnny Carson was on for years and years and years. Like, my gosh, this can't be his best clip ever. Is it because it's his final episode? Francine, what do you think?
I watched it today, and I watched Carson, when he was on. But I gotta say, I had a big lump in my throat at the end of that because you could kind of see his lip quivering. I think I think it was probably just because it was his last show and the last guest. Mm-hmm. That's why it was on there, because I don't think it was like the biggest hurrah.
Yeah.
But maybe the best emotional clip, I guess.
Yeah, that I could see that. Kris, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I'm old enough to have seen that when it was happening, and I am not a Bette Midler fan at all. But this was a very emotional show. I mean, I remember crying at the end because I was very sad that Johnny was not going to be on every night anymore.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that it made the list.
The emotional touch.
And I find on this list there's an awful lot of first ofs, last ofs.
Yes.
On this list. So I think that's kind of what they did it rather than picking out a pivotal moment. They kind of went with that on a lot of these, our first of, last of.
Yeah.
Patrick, I'm going to save you some time on this one. Are you familiar with this at all? Or you ever seen a Johnny Carson?
I've watched many a clip of Johnny Carson because, he's had everybody. I was about to say, he had Sinatra and he had stories about Sinatra. Those are gotta be better, more poignant, time of his career. But this was the last. And when I watched the clip of it, I was like, oh, this kind of reminds me of Letterman's last show, which was maybe this also set the stage for everybody who was going to have another last show.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I can see that. Number 74 on the list was Walt Disney's Disneyland, the Disneyland Story, the premiere episode in which Walt Disney gives a preview of an upcoming park that just happened to be called Disneyland.
I guess you all know this little fella here. It's an old partnership. Mickey and I started out the first time many, many years ago. We've had a lot of our dreams come true. Now we want you to share with us our latest and greatest dream. That's it, right here. Disneyland. Seen from about 2,000 feet in the air and 10 months away. I want to tell you about it because later on in the show, you'll find that Disneyland, the place, and Disneyland, the TV show, are all part of the same. Now, on a site of 240 acres near the city of Anaheim in Southern California, right about in here, we've begun to build Disneyland, the place.
Okay, Kris, you always keep telling us you're as old as the rocks and as old as the hills.
Old as dirt.
Old as dirt.
Dirt. This happened before I was born. So.
Okay.
But you know what? I have seen that so many times. I can understand why they put that on this list.
Yeah.
For any Disney fan at all, this just seeing Walt talking about this dream of his that became a reality, it is extremely emotional. So that's it in a nutshell for me.
Yeah. And I think for the viewing audience, this would have been like the first time the general public has heard of this place being built called Disneyland.
Right.
I mean, at the time, Walt Disney was a well-known household name. He had all his movies coming out. Everybody knew who he was. And I could see, talk about perfect marketing.
Right.
Give me a TV show and I'll give you something you can air. Yep. And when he airs is advertising his park he's opening.
Yep.
Brilliant.
It showed his marketing genius that he had everyone buying into the park before it was even built.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
How about you, Patrick? Kind of like how with the Star Cruiser, they got all these influencers to come there and they posted all these videos, get everyone excited about it, right?
Well, the Disneyland Story, I think the coolest part of what they told us on Disney Plus a couple of years ago, right? Which is kind of more the most recent time I've seen them start plugging this. It was cool that it was like a tit for tat that he was going to get his ads in return for doing something for the news stations. And you're like, okay, well, that's savvy. That's business.
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, Disney still does it with podcasters and YouTubers and stuff.
Yeah.
They invite them in and they say, hey, come take a look around at the newest and greatest thing we just made. And you could show all your followers how great it is. You
mentioned the Star Cruiser, the big one that they did on the May the 4th this past year. She didn't actually get her YouTube video out until the Star Cruiser had been closed for months.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. Okay, counting down. Number 75 on the list is Cheers, One for the Road, the season finale in which Sam, who's played by Ted Danson, looks around an empty bar at the end and says, "I'm the luckiest son of a bitch on earth." Did you guys get it? I watched it when it came out, but it was so long ago that I didn't remember that was the ending. The part that I remember was the guy that knocked on the door and he looked at the window and said, "Hey, we're closed." Did you guys watch the clip at all? Patrick, did you catch this clip?
No, I don't remember this one specifically. I remember watching Cheers as a kid. It's actually the first TV show I remember seeing on my little 6-inch TV that we had in our kitchen.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So the part that was really, I thought, more touching than him saying "I'm the luckiest son of the bitch in the world" was the part where Norm says I guess Sam left and then he came back to the bar or whatever. And Norm says, "You always come back to the one that you truly love." Mm-hmm. And then Sam goes, "Who's that?" And Norm goes, "Think about it, Sammy," meaning the bar is his true love. Yeah. So how about you, Francine?
I was never a big fan of Cheers when it was on, but I tend to catch it on reruns now, and I have a newfound love of this show. And I watched that clip on YouTube, the final one, and like you, I didn't remember any of that from the finale. I remembered the guy at the door and him saying "we're closed." That was the poignant moment for me, not him saying "I'm the luckiest." Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was weird that's what they called out.
Yeah. I thought, I don't know who made this list. Well, I do know who made this list. By the way, the person that made this list was all the people that vote on the primetime Emmys, like all the Academy of Television. Right. They were given hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of clips to choose their top favorite. I'm not sure how many they were allowed to pick, but they voted on their favorite clips of all time, or the most, and that's where this list came from. Mm-hmm. So, Kris, anything to say on that one?
Cheers was one of my favorite shows, and I never missed an episode ever. I loved Ted Danson. Every character on that show was just phenomenal, and I do remember this. Mm-hmm. And it was another one of those, when you've been watching the series as long as I did, it was very emotional.
Yeah. So, oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Number 72 is Meet the Press, the first episode featuring guest James Farley, former Postmaster General and Democratic National Committee Chairman.
From NBC News in Washington, the longest-running show in television history, this is a special edition of Meet the Press with Chuck Todd.
It sure is indeed a special edition of Meet the Press. It's 75 years in the making. This episode, at least. You hear it every week. You just heard it just now. Meet the Press is the longest-running show in television history, period. It was created by Martha Roundtree and Lawrence Spivak as a radio show. Believe it or not, Meet the Press moved to broadcast television on November 6, 1947.
All right. So when I first looked at this list and I saw Meet the Press on there, I went, these guys are nuts. Until I found out it was the longest running television show in history, period. Okay, it belongs on the list. Yeah. Anyone disagree?
No. It belongs on the list, but, Meet the Press is one of the shows that you don't remember is still always on TV.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever watched an episode in my life.
Honestly, I'd never heard of it till this list. There
you go.
I had to Google it. I was like, what is this?
No, I remember my dad watching this.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't remember 1940, but
well, and the thing, and Kris, Francine and I are both Canadian, so I didn't even have Meet the Press when I was growing up.
Yeah.
But yeah, I once I found out, okay, it's been running for 75 years. Absolutely, put it on the list.
Yeah,
makes sense.
So yeah. Where are we here? Number 71, Peter Pan. Mary Martin teaches the darling children how to fly.
Can you really fly? I'll teach you. How lovely to fly. I'll teach you how to jump on the wind's back, and away we'll go. Ooh. One day when you're sleeping in your silly bed, you might be flying about with me, saying funny things to the stars. How do you do it? You just think lovely, wonderful thoughts, and up you go!
Okay, so we were chatting before we hit record. Francine and I never even heard of this before. Food Fairy, Kris, Patrick, you both said that this is a show that you really, really liked and it deserves to be on the list. Can you explain it to us why it's on the list, Patrick?
Well, first, that's my Peter Pan. I may be the youngster, but that's my Peter Pan.
Okay.
No, it was, why does it deserve to be on the list? It was probably one of the first times a Broadway show had been aired nationwide across the country. And it is a story that everybody knows and everybody could sit around and watch it.
Okay. Kris, is that what you felt too?
It's sure. This came out in 1960, and I was only 2, so of course I don't remember that. But it repeated, like, I want to say every year this show was on TV all through the 60s and even into the 70s. I remember watching this and I always loved it. The music is phenomenal, and it was just it. I mean, this was the first Peter Pan I saw, the animated, the Disney movie. I didn't get to see it till I was older. So this is it's great.
Yeah. Okay. I can understand being the first Broadway show to be televised. All right. I'll give it because this is one of the ones that I didn't understand why it was on the list. Number 70 is Will and Grace pilot episode. Will puts their friendship at risk when he tells Grace